We now take a look at the LoadContactTask class, which is going to be responsible for loading up the selected contact, but doing so in a separate thread of execution, then getting the results back into the GUI thread of execution for display in our activity. Now, as you can see here, once again, we're extending AsyncTask, which is from the Android.os package. And we have three type parameters here. The first one, long, is the type of the arguments expected by do in background. And you can see this is a variable length argument list. So back up above here, we passed in one long integer primitive type value, and that is going to automatically be wrapped as a long object and passed into the do in background method. The second argument, the second type argument, that is the type that's going to be handled by the onProgress update method for intermediate results if we needed to get intermediate results during a long running asynchronous task. And the last type is the argument to the onPostExecute method, which is the cursor that represents the results returned from the do in background method. Now, once again, as we did in our previous discussion of an asynchronous task for this example, we're creating an object of our database connector class. In this case, it's going to be executing in the context of the viewContact activity. So we pass in the viewContact objects this pointer. We're operating within a private nested class, and if we just used the keyword this, we'd be referring to the current object of class LoadContactTask, not to the outer viewContact object. So we qualified the this reference with the name of the class in this case. So we have our database connector. The do in background method first calls open on the database connector object to get the database opened up so that we can query the database, and then we invoke our database connector objects get one contact activity, and we're going to pass in the first element of the params array. Remember, when you're using a variable length argument list, Java automatically turns that into an array of the specified type, and since we're passing in only one argument here, param sub 0 represents the row ID of our contact. So we're going to take that value, pass it to get one contact, and the database connector object will then return to us a cursor representing the results that contain that one contact. Now, once do in background completes its task, the resulting cursor will be passed into onPostExecute, which gets executed as part of the user interface thread of execution automatically. And inside of onPostExecute, we tell the result cursor to move to the first result, which is in this case the only result, since the row ID is a unique value for every individual contact. And we then go ahead and get out of the cursor the integers that represent all of the different pieces of information within the result. So we say to the result cursor, give me the column index for the name column. So I use that down below here, as you'll see, and I also get the column index for each of the other columns in the database table. Then at lines 87 through 91, we set the text in each of our text views by calling the cursor's getString method in each case, because all of our data happens to be string data, and passing in the argument, which is the index of the particular column in the result. And the reason we do it this way is to ensure that we are getting the appropriate data in each case. It is possible for the cursor to return the columns in an order that we don't expect. Therefore, we go via the index numbers that we obtain up above here. Now, once we're done setting the text, we don't need the cursor anymore, so we close the cursor and we close the database as well to ensure that we don't keep it open when it's not necessary to have the database open.